And we wish you good morning, everyone, and welcome to After Further Review, coming off of another Cleveland Browns win, a 20-6 victory over the Giants in the Meadowlands, as the Browns are now 10-4 and on the doorstep of clinching a playoff berth for the first time since 2002. Alongside Jay Crawford, I'm Dave DiNatale. Good to have everybody here, and good to have Jay back with us and me back with him here on this show. And Jay, it was not a suspenseful performance or game last night, and I thought that was a good thing. The Browns just went out and surgically took care of the Giants, especially on the offensive side, and beat a team that they should beat.
Yeah, let me start by saying how much I miss Freddie Kitchens and his innovative play calling, particularly in the red zone. In the red zone. I really miss that. It was kind of nice to be on the other side of that for a change. You know, when you, like you said, it wasn't suspenseful. It was a nice, easy, put it in the W column win. But I got to tell you, I don't think we should feel as good about that win as the score indicates, simply because that game swings on two plays. That fake punt and the 4th and 1 where they were stopped just inches short, also deep inside the red zone. You know, if those two plays, and that's the NFL, but if those two plays go the other way, that game's 20-20. And we're probably not feeling so good about ourselves this morning. All of that being said, we say it every week. It's like become our rallying cry here. A win is a win. You put it in the win column and you move on. And the positives, I thought Baker Mayfield gets the first game ball. I thought he was absolutely tremendous slinging the ball. For those that thought it was a fluke after Tennessee, even after he did it against Baltimore, he did it again last night. I don't care how good or bad the defense is. You can judge a quarterback on his play, on his throws, and use your eye test. He is slinging the ball right now as well as I've ever seen him throw it. And that's a good thing, because for us to have any kind of chance in a playoff game, we're going to have to be two-dimensional offensively. We're going to have to be able to run it. We're going to have to be able to throw it like that. And, man, he just continues to look better each week. And what did he complete, 85% of his throws?
27 and 32.
Yeah. Just insane. So really nice win. Unfortunately, not much changes in terms of the playoff chase, because everybody else that needed to win in the AFC won. The Ravens, the Dolphins, the Colts, the Titans. Nobody blinked. So we're pretty much after 14 games where we were after 13 games. You're going to have to beat the Jets. Likely that's going to do it, but who knows? It's really tough to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I would rather be on that side of things than had the Browns lost last night, and then all of a sudden you're now in the 8th spot with 7 teams getting into the playoffs, and then you need you need somebody to knock off Baltimore, and you need somebody to knock off Miami, and this and that, and I've always hated to be that team. I like to be able to control your own destiny. And that's pretty much where the Browns are. Percentages being what they are. I mean, if the Browns can go and beat the Jets, chances are at some point they're going to get in, no matter what happens in the final week.
Yeah, I think you're right. Suddenly, though, that Jets game takes on a whole different feel, doesn't it?
Indeed.
This is a Jets team that has come very close to knocking off some really good football teams. And yesterday, they finally got over that hump. So with that genie out of the bottle and them pretty much losing any chance they had to pick the number one, get the number 1 draft pick in next spring's draft, not that a team would ever go out there and intentionally lay down, but whatever incentive they had for losing is gone. So that being said, look, if it doesn't matter, you might as well go on a rip and try to close out the season on a positive note. And this isn't a team that I'd want to be playing right now. It just isn't. They they look like they're bringing everything together, and The Browns didn't take the Giants lightly, which was good to see because this is a team that started 1-7 and had won 4 of its last 5 to get into a situation where they were right there in the NFC East race again. And so it was nice to see the Browns took that challenge seriously. And I hope they do the same thing against the Jets. By the way, I think Nick Harris deserves a game ball as well. Yes. For his role coming in and in a really tough spot, playing a position that isn't his main position, and just performed, I thought, marvelously. And again, that offensive line as a whole deserves a game ball because they just continue to give Baker the time he needs to throw the football. Bill Callahan, you are the unsung hero of this football team. And, if you look at his track record, you're familiar with his stints in Nebraska and obviously with the Oakland Raiders and what he did in his time there and wherever he's been as the offensive line coach, that unit has performed much better than they did the previous year. The guy he's the definition of a coach. He takes a lot of raw talent and he makes them a great deal better.
Yeah, I was on a national radio show after last night's game, and they were talking to me, what's been the key for the offensive line? And I said, well, you got to credit Andrew Berry for going out and getting Jack Conklin and drafting Jedrick Wills. I mean, kind of bookending the line. But you got to give Bill Callahan a ton of credit. I mean, they've come in with a new system with this wide zone system that Kevin Stefanski's running, and they missed a beat. And the fact that you go from, Wyatt Teller, who's playing at an all-pro level at guard, to Chris Hubbard, who's been kind of that, switchblade guy that can play any position, he goes down. And you say, boy, you put in the rookie Nick Harris out of his position and you don't miss the beat.
Yeah, it's pretty stunning, really. It is. And again, just testament to the coaching. And I think the overall culture of the team, you could almost feel a next man up vibe through the whole offensive line. Everybody sort of picked up their slack, whatever it was. And, they were sliding over at times to help him, but in other times they didn't need to. And that Giants defensive front is pretty formidable. They're beefy. They get to quarterbacks, and I thought they did a really good job last night of keeping Baker upright. On the defensive side, you can't squawk when you just give up 6 points. They gave up a lot of yards for only allowing 6 points. But, that bend don't break mentality came into play last night, and they had the 2 critical stops deep inside the red zone, and that was the difference in the football game. I thought that Colt McCoy played a really good game. You can't fault McCoy. I thought he did in fact, I just think he's their better option. I haven't been impressed with Daniel Jones at all. And in Colt, you get a guy who's battle-tested. He knows what defenses are trying to do. He usually gets his team in the right spot. He had a lot of big third down conversions. He frustrated the Browns defense at times. But, for a unit that only gave up 6 points, I think that, that's a big plus coming off their performance against the Ravens, where Baltimore pretty much did whatever they wanted to against that defense. So starting to get healthy, starting to look like a unit that can frustrate a team in the playoffs.
I'll get to health in a second with you, but just kind of looking back at those 2 key plays you laid out, I don't have if I'm a Giant fan or if I'm an analyst with the Giants or whatever, I guess I don't have a problem with the mentality. You're trying to win a division title.
Sure.
And, you're trying to, put points up on the board against a really hot offense of the Browns. I get all that, but that fake field goal fooled nobody. And
no.
I mean, I'm sitting there going, of all the tricks that you could have called, and I put that on Joe Judge as much as Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah, I'd like to know who called that. I didn't hear any of the Giants post-game news conferences, but And I don't know that that's a Freddie call. I don't. I think that's probably got to go through Judge before it gets to the field. But one way or another, the Browns defense, by the way, reacted beautifully to it.
Yeah.
They immediately all knew where they were supposed to be. They fanned out. They got into the right spot. There was a second there where I thought there might be a little confusion in the back middle of the defense, but they got in the right place. They all pretty much felt they knew where the ball was going. That didn't fool anybody. So, yeah, gosh, you're right. You're chasing a division title, and it's almost like a playoff game for the Giants. It really is. Win, and you keep your hope in your season going. Lose, and it kind of unravels. So that it had a playoff feel to it, but I just felt like they played it a little too desperate.
Yes.
If they just take the points there, we don't know how the game changes. We don't know how things play out. But then another opportunity, 4th and 1, you think you can get that. They don't. If you just kick field goals there, you keep yourself in the football game.
Absolutely. It would have been 20, it could have been 20-12, in the fourth quarter, let's say.
Yeah, and that's a one-score game. That's doable.
And you still have a shot. You still have a shot.
Yeah. I thought it was it reeked of desperation.
Yes.
Not it. There's a difference between, look, if you're 0-13, you go for it. I would expect the Browns to see a lot of fourth down. That's why I think it's important next week that the Browns don't give up yardage like they did to the Giants. When you allow teams to move the sticks and get first down, and then once they cross plus territory and you're past the 50, then you're kind of playing with house money. You're 1-13. Why wouldn't you go for it on 4th and 2, 4th and 4? Why not?
Right.
You know what? Is your season going to come unraveled if you don't get it? The Giants had that fear. The Giants did have the fear of not getting a 4th and 1 and having the whole house of cards fall. The Jets won't be playing with that mentality. The Jets are going to be like, look, let's go beat another good team. Let's go shock the NFL. So they're gonna have to stop the Jets on 4 downs all week next week, and they're gonna have to play as sharp as they did last night.
Did you see the headline in the Daily News?
No.
Lawrence with a question mark. Whelp. Now, of course, if you're a little too young, you might not understand the Lawrence Welk reference, but I thought that was pretty good. Well, Lawrence Welk.
Yeah, you always know that the New York Tabs are gonna come up with great headlines, particularly when the story is big, and this is a big story. They get everybody involved and all their creative minds. I like that. Yeah, but you're right. More than half of their readers woke up and said, "What the hell does that mean, Lawrence Welk?" Google it, kids. Google it.
Google it, and you'll understand. Okay, talk about Browns defense and health. A little concerned about Myles Garrett and things he said after the game, and the last 2 weeks watching him, you can just tell the getting that energy, that stamina back after having coronavirus. I mean, it's been difficult, and he's talked about the coughing after games and everything he's going through. And I need the Browns to clinch a playoff spot, but I need Myles Garrett in the playoffs as well. At some point, do you think about after the Jets game, maybe that Steeler game, sitting them down and getting rest for a week if they've gotten the playoffs, if they've gotten in?
Well, here's the thing. I think you run the risk of setting him back more if you get him off of his routine and schedule now. We've all done this. You're at the gym religiously every day. Then you're on vacation. You're away from your facility. You don't have access. And you say, I'm on vacation. I'm going to live a little. I'll hit it hard when I get back. And you're away for 7 days, 10 days maybe. And that 11th day back in the gym feels like you've been out for 3 months.
Right.
Everything's heavier. The miles on the tread seem longer. Your breath isn't there. Because the body, it's conditioned to stay conditioned, but also when you stop, it becomes so much more difficult to get back to where you were. And he plays a high motor position. He's chasing something every single play.
Yep.
And eventually that wears you down. And I think where we are with Miles is, even though they're giving him spells here and there and he's getting breaks, his conditioning just is not where it needs to be. Now, I'm not going to begin to try to understand or even pretend to understand from a conditioning standpoint how much the coronavirus and having the coronavirus impacts your cardio. I'm sure it would have an impact. It's a respiratory virus, for crying out loud. I think it hits some a lot harder than others, and perhaps he's having to deal with side effects that are a little more restrictive than others. But I feel like if you rest him, then maybe he takes the foot off the gas during practice and that conditioning slips back even further. I just, until he comes to me and says, I need a break, just you try to keep going and keep the reps what they've been. And by the way, that Steelers game, there could be a scenario there where he's getting after a backup quarterback.
That's
true. I don't know what the Steelers are going to do at this point. It almost looks like, particularly for the division winners, that everything's going to be locked up. They lost to the Bills, so that's going to hurt the Steelers if they both finish with the same record. That's going to affect the Steelers. So they might be in a situation where they can't improve or fall back on their position going into Week 16. And if that's the case, you probably see Mason Rudolph, don't you? I mean, I don't think I'm sticking my starters out there if there's nothing to gain.
No. If I'm not trying to get home field advantage for the AFC playoffs, if I'm just kind of playing out the string, I wouldn't play Roethlisberger. I wouldn't play my key,
and I don't
guys.
think I wouldn't want to be the guy to tell Miles, look, we're going to sit you down against the Steelers and Mason Rudolph. I imagine, look, it's really difficult to operate under any assumptions. Did Mason Rudolph say the words that Myles Garrett alleges? Well, Myles believes it. Myles believes he heard it. So it's a reality for him. And if that's the case, I can't imagine he'd want to tap out when he'd have a chance to get a little bit of revenge against Mason Rudolph. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just, above anything else, I'm hopeful that Myles is okay. I'm hoping that everything's all right and there's not something bigger going on there. We know that there have been some lingering respiratory issues in some COVID patients, some extreme. We saw what happened to Johnson, the Florida basketball player who was recovering from COVID and had it took your breath away watching what happened. That was very scary. So we don't want a situation like that. I'm sure the doctors are looking at him and preparing for any and all scenarios. But more than anything, I wish him the best. I hope he's of good health. And, all of that being said, football is secondary. We want to make sure that he's safe and he's not putting himself at major risk.
Having said all that, another tip of the cap to Olivier Vernon, and just kind of watching him play against his former team last night, you just reminded. I mean, at the time, last year, this time a year ago, that trade Vernon for Kevin Zeitler looked awful. Looked like a terrible trade.
Sure.
The script is flipped this year, and people were telling me on social media last night, but he's a guy on a contract here. He's playing for a contract. Well, okay, fine, but he's playing at a high level, and that deserves to be recognized now and going forward.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, the trade looks a lot better for a variety of reasons. One, the Browns don't miss Zeitler as much on the offensive line as they did last year. I don't know how well Vernon could have played last year, where you would have been able to say, that trade was a wash, because Zeitler's absence on the offensive line was so glaring that I don't know that one player could do anything to make up for that, particularly when he's on the other side of the ball. But this year, because the offensive line has performed I think at an A- level for the
Yeah.
entire season, which I never thought we could have said that. You tend to miss that piece a lot less. Zeitler's still a great player, but I think that we don't miss him as much on the offensive side. And then on the defensive side, my goodness, he's done everything that you would want a guy playing the defensive end position can do. He's set the edge so well. There was a play last night where he just was blocked. He was shedding one block while he was reaching for a quarterback who, and Collinsworth made the astute point of, he look at his arms and his wingspan and the amount of space and real estate that he can chew up and make a defense protect. He's just had a tremendous year. And I, like you, a long time ago, I came to the realization that guys just play harder in contract years. Not everybody, but the vast majority of them do. And having an opportunity to get to know many current and a lot of former superstar athletes during my years at ESPN, I had countless conversation with guys about this very subject because I've always been fascinated by the production that you get from a guy that's in his last year. And I don't begrudge a player for doing that. A lot of fans do. A lot of fans say, oh, what? So you tried less in your first, second, and third year of the deal? It is what it is. Their window to make money is very, very small. And there are times during non-contract years where guys will be dinged and they'll just tap out because they're looking big picture. They're looking long-term financial security, which very few leave this game with. People have this notion that, if you're a professional football player, you're set for life financially. Very, very few of these guys leave the game where they have zero financial concerns the rest of their days. And because of that, I think they tend to manage their careers differently. They tend to manage them more cautiously. So maybe they skip a game here or there if they're not 100%, knowing that right now the injury is, the tissue is 40% torn. I could go out there and tear it completely and lose everything. Lose a year, lose a next contract. So it's a reality of the game. I don't begrudge players for doing that. He clearly is playing with a higher intensity this year, and good for him. I hope he gets his. I hope he stays with the Browns. I hope they recognize his value and they bring him back. But, one way or another, he's been a huge part of that defensive scheme. And if he were to leave, he'd be greatly missed.
No question. A couple more things here as we continue on after further review with Jay Crawford this morning. On the offensive side, it was just funny being in New York. You realize, Odell Beckham's not playing, and I know Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth were talking about that, the catch and everything. But during this rise here that we've seen from Baker Mayfield, he's had to do it without Beckham. And Rashard Higgins and Donovan Peoples-Jones have both come up big. I think everybody feels comfortable with Jarvis Landry. He's a Pro Bowl receiver. But guys that maybe you weren't sure about when we were getting, past that Cincinnati game really have become reliable targets for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, they have. And he's done a really good job, I think, in utilizing all of his tight ends. The Browns are in a really unique situation in which they have three guys at the tight end position where there's not a great deal of drop off one to the other. Njoku's production, while down, I think everybody acknowledges that, is probably down more because other guys around him at that position have stepped up. Hooper obviously has played very well, but, when you bring in the best collegiate tight end in the first round or in a draft situation, and he comes in and he's a good route runner, he has good hands. So Njoku's production, I think, is down more as a byproduct of those around him playing really, really well. So Kevin Stefanski has the luxury, if he wants to, he can bring in three tight ends on a set. And so typically when a team does that, what does that cue the offense to? Oh, here comes a run.
Oh, here comes the run.
They've just extended their offensive line 3 spots out. And with the Browns, and we saw it yesterday in a critical third down, they load up 9 guys on the line, Baker and 1 back, and it looks like, oh, this is a sure run. The Giants sell out. They stack the box. Well, one of the tight ends chucks and releases, and he's wide open, unaccounted for.
Right.
Easy pitch and catch, first down. So it opens the playbook, and I think Stefanski's done a really good job of utilizing these tight ends. And it's kind of like a secret weapon. I mean, it's not secret anymore. Teams see what we're doing, but, who else does that? Who has the luxury of doing that? So it's nice. I really like that he uses these different formations. The one thing that I think we've gotten away from, and it's hard to criticize it because we've been winning, even though we didn't against the Ravens. The one thing I do think we've gotten away from is establishing the run early in the game. It's almost like we're coming out saying, yep, we're a throwing team now, and you're going to have to stop us. Now, once teams catch on to the fact that we're throw heavy, then they're going to start building their defensive game plans to stop the pass. And hopefully when that happens, we can flip the switch, go back to the run, and not miss a beat.
Yeah, because you're right. It's almost like a bit of a West Coast, mentality offense-wise.
Absolutely.
Where you're throwing to set, they're throwing to set up the run. And, I'm good with that if you can run if you need to run in the fourth quarter to run out the clock and everything, which they've done several times this year. That's fine. But like you said, teams are going to catch on to that, especially good teams in a playoff game. And you better be able to readjust your focus back to the run if you have to.
I'm sure you watched Ohio State Saturday, right?
I did.
So what was maddening about that for me was Ryan Day was trying to establish the run by passing the ball.
Right.
And it was clear that Northwestern had sold out. They weren't going to let Justin Fields beat them. And look, that's what great coaches do. Pat Fitzgerald looked at the personnel. He knew they were going to be minus their best receiver. So he said, okay, no Olave, here's what we're going to do. We're going to clog up the passing lanes and make it tough for Justin Fields to throw the ball. Well, I was almost speechless that it took Ryan Day so long to figure that out. He kept coming out one series after the next, forcing the throw, and it wasn't there. And when they would go to the run, they were gashing Northwestern's defense. Well, of course they were. They weren't set up to stop the run. They were set up to stop the pass. And what was stunning to me was it took so long for Ryan Day to say, oh, we're not going to be able to throw today, so let's go to the run. Now, they're good. They're deep. Sermon had a breakout game, the greatest game an Ohio State running back has ever had. How's that for something on your resume?
Right.
But he finally recognized what Northwestern was doing and what they were giving him, and he just took advantage of it. And so I think the Browns, there's a little bit of similarity there. The Browns have proven this year they can gash you running the ball. And now they've proven on a number of occasions that they can punish you through the air too. And what more can you ask for as a play caller to know that if I need a 3rd and 8, I can call up a Jarvis Landry slant over the middle, or if the run game is working, we can stay with it and we can chew up clock and we can put points on the board that way. So this offense looks as diverse as any offense I've seen for the Browns since the Mac Biner days, when the signature was the run game. But if Bernie had to, Bernie could sling it and put up 400 yards in a game where the run wasn't working. So it's a nice luxury to have. And I got to say, I can't wait. I hope we get to see this. I can't wait to see how the Browns line up and match up with the Buffalo Bills team. Okay. We have, when you look at what the Browns have done this year, swept the AFC South, swept the NFC East. Yeah. I mean, that's 8 victories right there. Then we've picked up a couple of other wins, but they were against Cincinnati.
Right.
So outside of that, we haven't proven we can win within our division. If we're able to beat the Steelers, and that's a huge if, they finish with 3 wins in the division without beating the Ravens, and that's all you can ask for. If you go 500 in this division, that's better than going 500 in any other division, because for my money, this division is quietly, and I know Cincinnati is struggling, and Joe Burrow's injury didn't make that any easier. But moving forward, if Pittsburgh can find an heir apparent to Ben, I wouldn't want to live in the AFC North.
Ooh.
It's a really tough place.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you've got 3 Heisman Trophy winners, all, 25, 24, 23, whatever they are. It's not going to be easy for teams to get wins, but I can't wait to see how the Browns match up. We know how they match up with the Steelers and Ravens, particularly early in the season, but they showed so much growth from game 1 to game 11 or 12 against the Ravens. So I'm curious to see how they stack up now against Pittsburgh. How will we do against Buffalo? Because to get to where every franchise wants to go, it's not good enough just to beat up on the losing teams. You've got to be able to have a winning record against teams with winning records before you can plant your flag firmly in the moon and say, we're here.
Yeah.
So, I think we can play with the Bills. If we play that mistake-free game and we win the turnover battle, I think we can play with the Steelers. I think we can play with the Ravens. I think we can play with the Dolphins. Now, the Chiefs are kind of in another stratosphere, but take them one at a time, man.
Right. And last thing, just to kind of put a bow on it, we're seeing something. You and I remember the '80s and remember those great, how it felt to come of age as a Browns fan with a team that was a playoff team. Like you could pretty much say every year, well, 85, 86, 87, 88, Browns are going to the playoffs.
You were playing for home field in the AFC instead of playing for a playoff spot, and that's a different feeling.
Yeah. A whole generation, if you really think about it, of youngsters, they've come of age, never experiencing that until now. And so that feeling of the Browns are a playoff contending, legitimate team. I think this is so cool for fans that in a year that's been just nightmarish for all of us, there is something you can smile about and say, yeah, those are our Browns, and they're on the doorstep of doing something pretty special, getting to the playoffs for the first time in 18 years.
Well, Bill Belichick is not going to the playoffs this year for the first time in 20 years, I think.
Yeah.
And the Browns are. So that goes to show you how bizarre the year 2020 is. All of the ironies exist. The Browns are doing this in a year when the fans can't enjoy it in person, in mass. That's not lost on me for sure. I think that's kind of I don't want to say kept a lid on, but I think I'm a little surprised that we haven't hit a fever pitch yet in Cleveland. Now, maybe that's because there has been no official playoff ticket punched. And we had some really bad losses, and we're doing this against probably inferior competition, but I'm a little surprised that when I was a kid, and maybe it's just different because, our passion was different when we were, young kids. But gosh, I remember in 85, 86, 87, 88, all I wanted for Christmas those years, I wanted anything Browns. Yep. I want Browns sweatshirts. I want Browns jackets, coats, hats, everything.
I had a Browns sleeping bag.
Yes. I mean, if they made it with the Browns logo on it, I wanted it.
Yep.
And, I don't know. It's hard to gauge where we are because we're all locked up in our houses, so I don't know. But I don't yet feel that wave of energy through our city that I did when I was when I was young and this was happening. And that's probably because we're not out, we're not about. We can't experience that almost religious experience every Sunday when we go to the stadium and we see 78,000 people that look like us and sound like us and talk like us and all of that. So now I don't want to say that I'm not going to lead to anyone to believe that the enthusiasm and passion isn't there. I just don't feel it like I used to. Hey, win a playoff game, and I think all that changes real fast.
Yeah. I was going to say, or beat, you finish out the year 12-4. You beat the Jets and then beat the Steelers. And get into the playoffs and yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't done the math. I haven't really looked into it. The Steelers need to lose out. We need to win out to win the division, right? I mean, that is a very slim possibility. But so the wild card in that mix would be the Bengals beating the Steelers, which I can't see that happening. So short of that, I think we would be targeting the top wild card spot. If we were to secure that, we would then play,
I think, Tennessee.
Bills. Oh, the Titans. Okay, because they would be the last division winner in terms of record.
Yeah.
Okay. Or I mean, who knows? The Colts could win too, right?
Yeah, I think that's still possible. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, who knows how it's going to work out? If it was a rematch with Tennessee, I wouldn't hate that. It's I know it's hard to beat a team twice in a season, but you always go into the game with the psychological edge that we've played and beaten this team. The Bills would be a big question mark. And I got to tell you, man, I know Baker's playing well and he looks so good, but Josh Allen has really blossomed into that. It's funny, for a long time, I just kept looking at the game and I kept saying, okay, so who are the torchbearers? Who's going to take the torch from this group? And I'll even throw Peyton Manning in there, but the Manning, Brady, Breeze, Rivers, Ben, like who's that next group?
Rodgers.
What's it going to look like? I think it's definitively here with the Mahomes, and you can throw Josh Allen in there. Lamar Jackson, I'm still a cynic on whether or not this is a sustainable model. When you put yourself in the crosshairs as much as he does, yikes. I would not want to have a running quarterback and a team that is so heavily reliant on that running quarterback. But you could throw Lamar Jackson in there. There are so many good emerging young quarterbacks now. I still want to see them do it for a few more years before I say they're definitely the next wave. But it feels like that next wave is really beginning to take shape. And provided Baker can do it for another 2 or 3 years, I think he's in that club too.
Yes,
I really is. I really believe he is. So, but Josh Allen scares the daylights out of me, just because
he's amazing. He's
that dual threat,
Yeah, he's amazing. All right, my friend, great insights here this morning. I always appreciate it. We'll have a great Christmas this week here with the family, and
you too,
we'll
Dino.
see you back here next week after the Jets game.
Absolutely. Everybody have a terrific Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Enjoy your family. Go Browns. 2 more until it gets real.
That's right. All right, for Jay Crawford, I'm Dave DiNatale. Thanks for watching After Further Review.